Divya, have you initiated, ma'am? Ma'am, once you have initiated, please inform here that you have initiated, ma'am. YouTube live streaming.
Dr. Akila? Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
And the Venugopal's note taker no A
Ma'am, illa ma'am, adu Venugopal sir da nenikkren ma'am.
Illa, he is not responding.
Okay.
You
Okay,
just
ma'am.
deny the permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Where does it get streamed? Like, is there a link?
Yeah. Akila, you paste the link.
Pardon, ma'am? YouTube live streaming link, ma'am.
Yeah. Already we
1
have.
minute, ma'am. I'll paste it, ma'am. Ma'am, I pasted in the chat, sir. I pasted in the chat box, sir.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
So Linesh has joined.
Linesh has joined, yes, sir.
I think in another 2 minutes we can start. Huh?
Okay, sir.
Sir, shall I initiate the recording, sir?
Morning, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, Linesh.
Morning, HR, sir. We missed you yesterday.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Linesh, sir, good morning.
Morning, Dr. Komathy, madam.
Yes, thank you.
Speaker.
Morning.
And
Munir
speaker is Tariq, sir, is also there.
Morning, Tariq, sir.
Thank you, Linesh. Good morning.
Morning.
Recording start. Okay. Started recording, right?
Yeah, recording started, sir.
I think we can. So Linesh, shall I start?
Yeah. Greetings and good morning. On behalf of the organizing units IEEE CS Madras chapter, CSI Chennai chapter, ACM Chennai chapter, and Hindustan Chamber of Commerce HCC, myself, Dr. Komathy, Chair, CSI Chennai, is pleased to welcome the speaker, chairs and office bearers of the organizing units, delegates and the participants for today's webinar on building digital IQ and mindset. I request Mr. Linesh SanatKumar, President HCC, to deliver the welcome address. Please, sir.
Good morning, very good morning to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure in addressing the first event of my tenure as President of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. In fact, just yesterday we had our council meeting, and that's where we announced all the expert committee chair and co-chair. And as usual, our best choice when it comes to IT is only HR Mohan, sir. So I start my address by, it's my privilege in welcoming today's speaker, Mr. Tariq Munir, global keynote speaker and digital platform and transformation expert. I congratulate Mr. HR Mohan, Information Technology, AI and IoT Committee for organizing this webinar, which happens to be the first program of the year, and that too organized at a short notice in association with IEEE, AC Chennai and Computer Society. I welcome the governing body members, Dr. K. Komathy, Chair CSI Chennai, and Dr. P. Sakthivel, Chair ACM and IEEE, and members of the associating organization and their members again. I welcome all the participants, and today's webinar is a very useful topic and is a need of the hour. In fact, in my 4-point agenda, when I took over, one of the area focus for us from the HCC side was digital excellence and AI. And I'm glad that the very first program of the year, thanks HR Mohan ji, we are starting off with interesting topic, building digital IQ and mindset. I welcome all the office bearers and council member of HCC for this webinar. As a layman, a digital mindset is not merely the ability to use technology. Rather, it is a set of attitudes and behaviors that enable people and organizations to foresee possibilities. Social media, big data, mobility, cloud, AI, and robotics are some of the big digital forces that are disrupting and deconstructing the world today, permeating every aspect of life and business. Beyond this, our speaker will highlight more on the intricacies. One more para just for me to just speak something on my chamber, since it's my first address. Sir, Hindustan Chamber is a 78-year-old chamber. We have around 980 members from various segments of trade and industry. We are very active in the social media. We conduct a lot of programs and would be happy if you all could follow us on the social media so that you can participate in our events. Those who are not members of HCC, I see quite a few of them in my screen. I appeal to them to contact the Secretariat to know more details. I once again welcome our speaker and the participants for today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Mr. HR Mohan, Chair Events IEEE CS Madras, to introduce the speaker of today's webinar. Please, sir.
Yeah, greetings and good afternoon to one and all. Let me once again welcome the today's eminent speaker, Mr. Tariq Munir, and my colleagues and members from the organizing units of IEEE CS, CSI, ACM, and Hindustan Chamber, and all the participants who have joined the Google Meet as well as watching the YouTube streaming. As everyone knows, the digital transformation and adapting to AI are major agenda items for the enterprises to ensure survival and growth in the VUCA world. According to the reliable studies, digital transformation is in place in close to about 50% of the global companies, and others are also at different stages of digital transformation journey. So digital transformation is not just a technical solution, but more of a cultural shift and the mindset of the organization comprising of individuals. Despite all the buzz around AI and digitalization, majority of digital transformation initiatives still fail to achieve the objectives. The biggest reason being the lack of digital culture and mindset. So in our today's presentation, our eminent speaker, who is a digital transformation expert, Mr. Tariq Munir, will be talking about the importance of building digital mindset and digital IQ. He will also delve into the practical ways of organization that can build such a culture and unlock the true potential of AI and digitalization. Now it is my pleasure to formally introduce the speaker. Mr. Tariq Munir is an international keynote speaker based in Australia. So we got connected through LinkedIn through a common friend, Mr. Prasad, who had also given an expert talk on data quality. So that's why the world, the technical world is a little small in terms of once you know a person, his associates are also known to us. So Mr. Tariq, I have been following him on the LinkedIn and see his posting on various aspects of the management, digital transformation, financial areas, and something very, very valuable And I know that he is a very, very busy consultant, but he had offered to give this presentation to our members. What normally would have sort of incentivized him with thousands of dollars, now we are getting almost literally free of cost. It's something very nice of Mr. Tariq. And he has over 20 years of experience in finance, integrated planning, and digital and financial transformation. Mr. Munir delivers regularly lectures, conducts training programs, and presents keynote addresses on digital transformation and AI. He has worked with the global organizations like PwC, Nobel, and PepsiCo, and brings expertise in leading complex and large-scale digital process transformation. He not only advises the company in terms of how to go about digital transformation, he also oversees, the progress is whether it's as per the plan and things like that. So, which is a very vital. Unless something is measured and monitored, the success of any activity is not fully realized. So, we are really fortunate to have Mr. Munir to address us today. With this brief introduction, let me invite Mr. Munir to enlighten our participants on building digital IQ and mindset. Over to Mr. Munir.
Thank you so much, Mohan, and thank you, Mr. Linesh and Dr. Komathy, for the introduction and inviting me to talk about this very important topic. And thanks for such a nice introduction. I feel honored to be here. So yeah, let's just jump straight into the talk then, because now you pretty much know all about me. So let me just share my screen and then we can start. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right. So, first of all, I have a question for you to think about, that how many of you can actually relate to this picture, right? Maybe you can comment in the comment box. What's the relationship between these two things that we see? One I know is a camera. The other thing on the right side, that's more of something which many might not know.
Yeah, analog film. We are all used to that. Our generation used to that.
Yes, absolutely. You rightly pointed out, and I'm sure anyone who grew up in 80s and 90s, these are the two things life was not complete about. For Gen Z, however, this thing on the right is, as you mentioned already, is a 35mm film, which would go into the camera before you could actually take any picture. Now, back in the day, Kodak's name was synonymous with photography, and no event was complete without what they call as Kodak moment. And they were doing pretty well as well, right? At one point in time, they were commanding 90% of the market share, had 79,000 patents in their name, and were clocking a more than $16 billion worth of revenue. However, something was not right. Within a span of 10 years, somehow from mid-90s to mid-2000s, their market share started to fall to around 7%. And by 2012, their revenues went down to $3.7 billion when eventually they had to file for a bankruptcy. Now, many of us would think that this is a very common occurrence, which was pretty prevalent in early 2000s, because many organizations were not able to keep up with the changing technological advancements around them and had to shut down their doors, which in Kodak's case was digital photography. However, what if I tell you that the first digital camera was actually invented by Kodak? And that too back in 1975, way ahead of its time. Sony only came up with a digital camera, in fact, in just 1986, which was like 10 years after that. So clearly, innovation or staying ahead of the technological advancement was not an issue. So what happened? Let me tell you. When Steve Sesson, the person who invented the digital camera, when he showed it to the management, you know what they said? That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it. And this one line tells us the entire story behind the reason that why they were not able to create a right to succeed in a world which was rapidly changing around them. It was never a technology or funding issue. It was always a lack of will and mindset to change. Now, unfortunately, as Mr. Mohan also alluded to earlier, corporate history is filled with these examples. And with very recent surge that we have seen in AI and technological funding, this trend is only increasing. Organizations are now scrambling to find use cases, and despite having access to all the resources and funding in the world, are either failing miserably or being mediocre at best. In fact, a very recent survey suggested that approximately 80% of AI initiatives actually fail to achieve their objectives. And to put this in perspective, Goldman Sachs estimates that in 2025, $200 billion is going to be invested behind AI. So imagine how much of this $200 billion is going to in fact go to waste. So this is just to give a bit of a perspective around that. And this is a very disturbing situation to be in, almost like a crisis. So I did what a typical consultant would do. I went to an expert and asked that what should we do in this situation? So I asked Sir George Bernard Shaw, who once famously said, progress is impossible without change. And those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. And in the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to give you 4 skills or 4 mindset changes that we need to build a digital mindset, which is an imperative to lead in this age which is defined by AI. And whether you are just starting out in your career, or you are a student, or you are a current leader, or in other words, you are a current leader or a future leader, this is all applicable to you because this is how the world is now evolving. So I will share some of the key tips as well throughout. So please do pay attention. Now, before we get into it, let's first try to understand what is a digital mindset. And as Sir Linesh also mentioned very eloquently as well, that it's how we use technology to solve things. So effectively, digital mindset has nothing to do with knowing how to code or being technologically savvy. Like it does have to some extent have a relationship to that, but not all of it. Digital mindset is simply how well you are able to connect the output of data, technology, and algorithm to solve a real world business problem. Or for that matter, any problem, right? It can be a business problem. It can be any other problem as well. So it is just about connecting those dots. And to build digital mindset, of course, as a baseline, we need to have some sort of digital IQ. Now, you might be thinking, the question might come that, okay, now does that building digital IQ mean knowing how to code and knowing the intricacies of how technology works? The answer is again, not really. Digital IQ is yes, about building digital literacy. But how much digital literacy is enough for you to build a digital mindset? To address that question, I would like to refer to some excellent work done by 2 researchers, Paul Leonardi and Sedal Nele, and their 30% rule of digital literacy or building a digital mindset. So the rule suggests that whenever if you need to attain a command of or expertise over any language, for instance, for English language, which is not my first language, a person need to learn around 10,000 words to build a mastery of that language. However, in order for me or in order for a person to comfortably converse in that language, they only need to know around 30% of that, which is roughly 3,000 words. By the way, I only know 10%, so I'm still making do with that. And same goes with digital literacy. You just need to know enough to be able to, again, collaborate with the machines to solve a business problem and understand the flow of data in your organization, how it is collected, how it is categorized, stored, and then consumed for insights, and how that impacts the different ways of working and bring out the change in the organization. Now, let's unpack this a little bit more, this 30% rule that we are talking about. So, effectively, in building our digital mindset, what we need to do is we should be able to do three things to be able to command this 30% rule, or to be able to demonstrate this 30% rule of digital literacy. First of all, we should be able to, as I mentioned earlier, collaborate. The first element is how well we are able to, for example, interact with AI tools and digital tools to make yourself and your organization more productive. Building enough knowledge to be able to confidently speak about technology and what it can unlock for your organization. And then understanding that how you interact and innovate using that technology. And that requires only 30% of knowledge around different machine learning and AI techniques. You don't need to go down to the level where you need to start building the models. In fact, these days, a lot of models are already available for in the open source. So you just need to know basic knowledge and you just need to be able to converse in that similar language. Think of it as driving a car, right? You don't need to be knowing the exact mechanics and thermodynamics behind how a car actually drives. But you need to know what accelerator does, what are the different road signs mean, where, how and when you need to apply brakes, and so on and so forth. It's similar to that. That is the enough depth of knowledge that is needed to be able to build such a digital mindset. Secondly, it's also important to understand how different computations are happening within these technologies. For instance, how the data across the organization is being collected, categorized, consumed, and stored, and then used for analysis. Now, this again does not mean that you need to suddenly become a statistician to be able to know different data analysis and statistical measures. You just need to know enough to be able to know that, to be able to understand what are the different terminologies mean and what does they actually bringing out in a certain business context. This will help you become more confident in data. This will help you understand the data output in a much more contextualized way. And then in turn will enable you to build that data-driven culture that we will talk about in a bit. Now, in the context of digital transformation or AI or technology, it's a cliche that change is the only constant. So adapting to change is vital in building that digital mindset. And it is about understanding that how we can create a culture of change, experimentation, and psychological safety to drive the digital adoption in your organization. Now, implementing a technology is not enough. Implementation is the easiest part, right? I mean, I know some technologists would disagree with me on that, but it's still at the end of the day, you can find a solution, you can work around, you can do some commands and some coding to address different issues. But the real challenge comes in the adoption and the change management. Now, by no means I would say that you become a change management expert. Of course, there are always there are always experts available for that. However, it is all about understanding and acknowledging what is needed to support a culture of change. And that is how we build a digital mindset. In fact, I actually launched a cross-geography wide learning initiative. And without going into much details, the working principle behind that was this 30% rule. That you curate enough content, digital and data learning content for people who have non-technical background, so that it builds enough skill set for them to be able to converse in that same language as their IT or their more technical counterparts and their vendors as well, so that they are able to connect the dots and hence use that output and use that knowledge to solve the real world business problem. See, at the end of the day, the entire premise of technology is all about solving some problems, whether it's about drug discovery, whether it is about creating efficiencies in your daily work, or whether it is about any other automations or removal of the manual or automation of the manual tasks. That is the entire premise around which the technology is built, or this AI technology mostly that we talk about today. So that was the digital mindset part, or that was the 30% rule part. Now, building a digital mindset requires us to be courageous as well. And when I say courage, I mean the courage to rely on data. And what I mean by that is, it is very easy to say that we are data driven. But in reality, how many times do we take decisions based on data and objectivity as opposed to what we feel is the right thing or based on our gut feel? In fact, a study by MIT Salon Review suggests that the leaders that they surveyed, only 21% of those leaders actually said that they have a data-driven culture. And I believe the reason is that we, in a way, are a little bit afraid of technology, because we feel like it will democratize information too much. It will reveal too many insights. People who are lower down in the organization and those above yourself will get the information at the same time as you would have that. So you might not have that time to be able to build PowerPoint slides and craft a story behind those numbers that you want to tell. Now, to build this kind of a culture, to build this kind of a mindset, you need to be comfortable and in being vulnerable and open to challenge your own views with what data brings. And to do that, I would suggest to lead from the top and do not just rely on your gut feel. And again, by all means, I do not mean to say that stop relying on your gut at all. Of course, that's very important. That's what makes us humans. And this is how we bring the contextualization in the output of the machines. But ensuring that we are not over relying on our gut feeling when data is telling us something else. And one thing I have personally found very useful is to move away from the slide decks and move more towards the live dashboard and cockpit reporting. Yes, because the data is being refreshed or information is being refreshed, insights coming up in near real time or almost with a little less lag than they would in a typical slide deck. You will not have answers to everything, and that should be okay. Be vulnerable and ready to acknowledge that yes, I don't know everything, but I am ready to go back, explore it further, and come back with the answers. And this is how we build a data-driven culture. Always remember to leverage your inner compass to guide you, but do not overlook the valuable insights that data is bringing out. That is how we build a digital IQ and a digital mindset. Now, one imperative of today in a world which is, I think, Sir Linesh or someone talked about around VUCA world. So in a world which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, the only way for us to stay relevant and not end up on that wrong side of 80% statistic we talked about is through continuous learning. And to do that, the first step is to acknowledge that human brain has an unlimited capacity to learn and develop itself. There is no skill that cannot be taught, which in other words, building a growth mindset, which is in direct contradiction to what the fixed mindset is all about, which is pretty much the product of the last industrial revolution, where workers were divided into different, based on their specific skill set, they were divided into different groups on the different assembly lines. So different parts of the assembly line. Continuous learning requires us to break that barrier. And having said that, I must admit, and I'm also a big culprit of that, it is one of the most misused words as well. Continuous learning is not about how many certificates do I earn or how many hours do I clock. It is about how much I am willing to challenge my very own assumptions around different things in the light of new knowledge. And that is not easy. Challenging other people's assumptions is the easiest part. Challenging our very own assumptions is really hard. And the trick to do that is to create that growth mindset. It is like cleaning. I'm sure many of you would understand the concept of this. It is like clearing your brain cache, like how you clear the cache of your computer, right? And make so that new information can come and take its place. Or in other words, what I can call is that unlearn the old knowledge and create space to learn something new. Always remember that understanding the gap between your knowledge and your assumption, and then bridging that gap, is what creates us a continuous learner. And that is how we can influence the entire organizations and businesses and our daily lives, irrespective of whether we work for an organization or whether we work for our own selves. Continuous learning is the common thread line. And learning every day, irrespective of whether you are the CEO of the organization or whether you are a junior staff, it doesn't matter. In fact, a global cosmetics company, they implemented an initiative called reverse mentoring, in which a tech-savvy junior staff would mentor a senior executive of the organization, which helped them fast-track their digital transformation. And a tech company implemented a very interesting initiative where anyone in the organization could set up 30 minutes of learning time with anyone else in the organization, irrespective of their level and status in the organization. So imagine how much they were able to tap into the learning ecosystem within the organization, and how much they would be willing to leave their preconceived assumptions at the door before they walk into those learning meetings. And one very important thing in being a continuous learner, where I would encourage you to be ruthless and almost selfish, that's the thing that you can be selfish about, is about your personal development and hence upskilling yourself. We are lucky to be alive in a world where we literally have the access to learning at our fingertips. There is so much free information, in fact, available today, that you don't really need to go for anything out of the anything extraordinary to learn something new. So utilize those tools and resources that are at your disposal. I'm sure, and sometimes I do end up as a surprise. I do get surprised as well that how many different resources are available with our professional organizations that we are member of, and which we have never used. So I encourage you to inquire, be curious minded, that what are the different resources available, what are the different areas that your professional bodies have. Maybe they have some programs around where there are a number of different learning opportunities available. So do that. Things like These days, almost every other organization has a digital academy or a digital university, excuse me, or something like that. And having said that, in any organization, some research suggests that in any organization there are three kinds of people, right? Digital natives, who are like born digital people; digital immigrants, which are like myself, who have lived on the both sides of the realm; and digital ignorants. Now, having said that, no one, being anyone, is not wrong. There is nothing wrong in being that digital ignorant and digital native or digital immigrant. Everyone brings their own unique skill set. Digital natives are very good in technology, but then digital ignorants are very good in the change management, in the leadership skills, in the collaboration skills we talked about in those early part of the presentation. These different, it's all about how well in an organizational setting you are able to connect the dots and leverage the learning ecosystem, leverage and play on the strengths of different profile of the people, and then go along and build your organization and build a digital mindset and culture in your organization. And it's, again, at the end of the day, comes down to a point where you should be willing to learn new skill and unlearn the old skills. Acknowledging the lack of knowledge is a strength. It's not a weakness. Always remember that. Now, organizations of today are not just people, process, and system as we used to think of in the previous industrial revolutions. Today, they are a complex interaction of data, algorithms, and digital networks as well. And while we prepare ourselves to interact with this inorganic co-worker, which is in the form of an artificially intelligent being, which we call AI today, we must not lose sight of the human centricity. Therefore, emotional intelligence is the next imperative on my list. Now, I agree, you might be wondering that why do we need emotional intelligence when it is all about digital? However, I do believe that this is where we put a disproportionate amount of time on technology or thinking about technology and not so much time on the people side. With the change that AI is bringing, which is going to be huge and which we already are feeling, right? There are all the more reasons to value the human connection. Because what technology is doing, it is automating all the manual and grunt work for you, and hence pushing you towards the edge of the processes as opposed to being stuck in the center of that laborious work. And at the edge of this work, you have a better chance of connecting with other humans and being in that business partnership and being in that connecting role with humans. So in order for us to build emotional intelligence, the first thing is to build the first skill. And I do believe all of these can be taught, all of these can be learned. Again, that growth mindset comes into play. These are not the things we are all born with, right? Some people do have it, but some people can learn these mindset changes over time. The first thing is to build empathy. We need to be cautious of the fact that how technology is impacting humans. The problem with the current narrative, my struggle with that is, we talk so much about AI taking over jobs or AI replacing humans and so on and so forth. When we do that, it gives us an impression that humans are being replaced. However, what we need to look at in a little bit more depth is that it is not the human that is getting replaced. It is the task. It is the work that the human was doing can now be done by a machine. So we need to detach those tasks, those works from the human. Because only if we detach these two things, these two elements, we will be able to acknowledge that people can be trained, people can be upskilled. to do work which is more meaningful, which is more value adding, as opposed to passing a blanket statement where we say, oh, technology is going to replace humans. That is where we lose the empathy, and that's where we need to bring back the human into the technology equation. Then secondly, digital transformation is not an easy task by any means. And with technology rapidly changing, you will find many a times you will find that you are working on something, and by the time you are done, the technology has changed or something new has come up. So building a resilience within yourself and within your teams is another important element. So it is always important to step back and take stock of what you have done so far, what you have achieved so far, and celebrate those small wins along the way. This will not only increase your morale or your team's morale, but will also increase the productivity. And lastly, today we are working in hybrid environment, right? And today, as we speak, it is an example of that. We are having a combination of virtual and physical human interactions. Now, when I'm giving any talk in person, it is relatively easy for me to connect with a lot of people out there because I can read their cues, I can get their body language. So accordingly, I change, I pivot myself, I make myself slow or I get faster. So according to that, I can change I can pivot. But that's not the case when we are in these situations where we are working with the remote teams, where we have the technology sitting in the middle between us, and that is how we are interacting. So it is very important to do not lose the touch of that human connection. Ensure that when you are working with your remote teams, and I'm sure many of you will be working or would currently be working or will be working in future with the remote teams, you make your connections more meaningful and not just transactional, that you're just talking transactions. You are making it more personalized and more human centric whenever you are having your connection with those people. You might not meet. I have worked with people for many years whom I did not get a chance to meet in person. But that does not mean that I cannot build that human connection with them, which is very important to survive and thrive in today's world. Now, a couple of years ago, Google started a project called Project Aristotle. They wanted to figure out why some teams are more effective and productive than others. They studied around 180 teams, 2,000 people spread over a period of 2 years. And the researchers found out that psychological safety was the most important factor in any team's effectiveness. And that is my fourth and last point on this one, on building this digital mindset. Now, to understand psychological safety, think of it like that. Whenever teams feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable, they are more likely to share their ideas and collaborate more effectively and learn from each other. And the environment that we create for people to feel safe and be vulnerable and share their ideas is what we call the psychologically safe environment. In fact, you can have all the digital literacy in the world. You could have done as many learnings and continuous learning and growth mindset, continuous learning as you want, certifications and everything. But if you're not providing an environment where teams are not willing to take risks and have a safe space to bring their ideas out, nothing will work. Because remember, what was digital mindset? Digital mindset was about connecting the output of machines to solve a business problem. And there will always be, and there are always more than one way of connecting those outputs to solve a business problem. But if people do not feel safe to bring out their ideas, they will not share their point of views and their solutions with you. So you might end up losing on those ideas which never came out and stayed within the brains of your teams. So therefore, to build psychological safety, you need to be digitally ambitious and build an experimentation mindset, a culture of experimentation. Now, experimentation does not mean that we mindlessly start investing in different technologies and start testing on the technologies. No, it is about being able to very clearly understand what technology can and cannot do for us. And then hearing everyone out, understanding what different ideas are out there and what different avenues are out there, and then choosing the best possible scenario. And then based on the information and data that you have available at that time, you make a decision and then you move on with that. And then do not hesitate to go for the first mover advantage, which in other words we also call quick wins or early wins. They help you generate excitement within the organization. In fact, studies have shown that organizations who are the early adopters of technologies have 1% higher revenues. So again, be digitally ambitious, and the very thing with experiments comes with one thing, that an experiment can be a success or a failure. So be ready to fail as well, but fail fast. Now, unfortunately, I must say, throughout our lives, we have always been taught how to succeed, but we are never taught how to fail. Partly our education systems and the societal norms is to blame and whatnot. Learning how to fail is the single most important skill we must build in an uncertain and complex world around us. Because the very nature of the uncertainty and complexity and ambiguity means that when we will try on different things, when we will experiment on different technologies, there will be a point where some will work and some will not work. So we are bound to fail in one way or the other. And that should be okay. That should be seen fine. A failure should be seen as an opportunity to learn or an opportunity to grow, as opposed to a lack of success. Remember what the magician of Menlo Park, Thomas Edison, once said: I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways it will not work. And he failed multiple times before he was able to invent a light bulb. That's why we call it the light bulb moment. And that is the culture and mindset we need today to lead in this world, which is being defined by artificial intelligence and other technologies. Now, let me be very clear on one thing. When I say psychological safety, that does not mean that we need to start being nice with everyone all the time and high-fiving around the offices and everything. No, it does not mean that. What it means is that being transparent around what is working and what is not working. You should be able to not only provide but also receive timely and clear feedback on how things are going, on how progress is being made against different objectives or against different projects or deployments, for example. It also involves the fact that you should be open about how different decisions are being made, what changes are happening in the organization with respect to digital AI and transformation. Now, of course, you cannot divulge every confidential information or every detail, but you can always give a sense of direction and bring people along, tap into their collective wisdom and bring them along the journey of your digital transformation, or mobilize them while you're doing your digital transformation. Always remember that, and I always say this in any talk I give around the psychological safety, is digital psychological safety and its impact on digital, of course. Digital feeds on innovation, and innovation feeds on ideas. And ideas only come up if people feel psychologically safe to bring them out. So future has this trait of uncertainty, especially in present when we are grappling with technologies like AI, machine learning, which are redefining the future all the time. However, I am a true believer that the convergence of these general purpose technologies like AI can truly create a future of abundance and prosperity for all of us. But to do that, we must challenge our very own assumptions of how we look at technology and what it can do for us. In our earlier example, Kodak did not have any shortage of any new ideas. They simply could not rethink and challenge the old ones. So I will leave you with this quote from the famous futurist Alvin Toffler, who once said, "The illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." And I have no doubt the very reason we are all have joined on this call is to do exactly the same. So my call to action would be that I invite you to join me in building a digital mindset by being a lifelong learner and also being emotionally aware of human values. And while doing that, create a safe space where ideas can nourish. I'm fully optimistic that we can create a tech-enabled humanistic future we all want to see for ourselves, for the places we work, and for our future leaders to come. Thank you. We can
Thank you,
take some.
sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. So it's time for the question and it was an excellent presentation. So it's a time for
Thank you.
question and answer. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So few questions have been, registered by the participants during the registration.
Right.
Yeah. The first one is an assistant professor. She has asked pros and cons of digital IQ.
Mm-hmm. See, pros, I would rather call there is no con of building digital IQ today, right? It is more about how much digital IQ we need to build. So building digital IQ is an imperative. I must say this is something that we don't have a choice anymore, right? So it's critical that we understand that how much digital IQ do we need to build, how much we need to delve into the technology. And again, it all depends upon your personal objectives as well. If you want to eventually become a data scientist, yes, by all means, understand coding and go on that line. But if your intention at the end of the day is just to be able to use technology to solve a problem, whether it's a business problem or whether it's a problem which is being faced by humanity, you just need to know enough to be able to connect the dots, to be able to learn what the output of those machines is and how they are solving that problem. I guess I hope if they were listening to it or if they will look at it, they would find that 30% rule quite interesting in that respect to build that digital IQ and digital mindset.
Thank you, Mr. Tariq.
I think I'll stop sharing my screen now because we can then just have.
Oh, yeah. Okay. The another professor has asked how to sustain digital IQ in the dynamic environment of IT.
2 words: continuous learning.
Yeah.
Right. That is the only way for us to stay relevant.
Dynamic,
Otherwise, if we and by continuous learning, again, I do not mean that we just keep on mindlessly start doing certifications and log hours. Yes, that's important. We need to build a digital core skills. That's have to be there. But it is more of a mindset change where we are ready to update our assumptions around various opinions based on in the light of new knowledge. In other words, listen to learn, not to respond.
Yeah, thank you. One another question from Professor Sandeep Bhattacharya, is a senior vice president. He has asked the question, what is the effective way to build a digital mindset that is relevant to business?
Again, I do believe that the most effective way is to what I just spoke in pretty much the whole presentation, right? And if I am to really narrow it down into couple of things, that will be always be available to learn new skills, have a growth mindset, continuous learning again, build emotional intelligence, where you are able to value human connection in this age of technology. Digital literacy, of course, you need to have some basic level of digital literacy to be able to converse in that same language as your more technical counterparts, and then create that psychologically safe space. Now, some of the practical ways that you can actually do that is through having things like digital academies in your organization, or signing up to various different digital learning online platforms, then making them available for your team, and not just making them available for the team, walking the talk as well, demonstrating that yes, you are also willing to learn and update your knowledge when your teams will also follow the suit. So whatever you will do as a leader, the teams will also follow the same. And then one very important aspect of building a digital mindset in the organization is building a data-driven culture. And as I mentioned during my talk, that data-driven culture has its roots in being comfortable with ambiguity, because data will tell you things which you might not expect, or which you might not feel to be right. So you should have that curious mind, and it's not that it will always be right, but you should have that curious mindset and that critical and problem solving thinking mindset to be able to understand that how data is right or wrong, or what insight it's bringing out, and you are able to objectively assess the output that is coming. So these are some of the cultural and behavioral shifts that can be made in the organization. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. And yet another question, an interesting one, by Mr. Joshua Premkumar, Quality Manager. Given that digital culture and mindset are critical for the success of AI-driven transformation, how can organization systematically measures and improves their digital IQ across different levels of the workforce? And what role does a leadership play in sustaining this cultural shift over the time?
No, good question. Really good question. That, right, which can be done, of course. But I guess more important than that is to have, first of all, have a very clear learning pathways for your teams on what does digital learning mean for them. It might mean something else for a finance employee, and it would mean an entirely different thing for a machine operator. Right? So it is very important to curate. So again, content is available out there. This world is an overload of content at the moment. If not, all you need to do is make sure that you are employing resources to curate that content in a way that it is useful for those respective, it is useful for different people in different contexts. So for example, for finance person, you might want to build some data visualization skills or something else. For a machine operator, you might want to build some other digital skills which are more around how AI is transforming the predictive maintenance, for example, and those kind of things. So it will depend on that. And then you can think about measuring that how much digital IQ in your organization, or digital literacy, in other words, in your organization has gone ahead by, of course, looking at the number of hours people are spending on the, first of all, of course, number of hours people are spending on different learning material, and then how they are actually using that learning material or using those learnings to solve the business problem. So what was the impact of those? That's more important than just clocking the hours. So measuring the impact is the key here.
Okay. Thank you. And participants, if you have any question directly, you want to put it over to the speaker, please unmute your mic and then you can talk.
So I have a basic question.
Okay.
Who spearheads the initiative in an organization? Building the digital IQ, and who spearheads? Is it the technical team or the management or HR?
Oh, it's everyone. It's building digital mindset is everyone's responsibility. Yes, as a leader, it starts from the top. Firstly, if leaders are not willing to change, the change will not happen in the organization. That's given, right? I mean, it is very clear. I mean, no matter how much people try to change, if leaders won't take that plunge of change or accept the change, no one will change underneath. So it's very important that leaders are embodying that behavior. But then building digital mindset is a requirement for everyone today. No one can come and say that since my manager did not help me build digital mindset, I don't have a digital mindset. That just does not exist, right? I mean, you have so many resources available today. You can just go out, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, you can name it, and you can find free content out there just to learn and upskill yourself. So no one stops anyone from upskilling. No one stops anyone from building a digital IQ, building a digital mindset, emotional intelligence. These are all behaviors. These are all mindset changes, mindset shifts which are needed. So yes, in an organization, leaders need to lead. They need to walk the talk to encourage the broader organization to do the same. But at the end, it's everyone's responsibility. It's everyone leads the way.
Start from the individual to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyone else? Anyone else from the participants? Would you like to pose question to the speaker? Okay. So,
Are there any studies between? Are there any studies which has measured the success of organization where the digital mindset is at a higher level than the organization having at a lower level? And the failure rate of studies.
Again, I mean, it's all judgmental at the end of the day. There can be questionnaires, right, that you can use to assess, and then measure it against year on year that how that your organization has gone from one digital maturity to the next level. So you can always understand it and in a much more holistic way that what's your digital maturity, what's the digital IQ of the people, how much is it. There is actually, I remember I read somewhere that there is an organization who actually does the digital IQ ranking for different organizations as well. So I'm not on the top of my mind right now, but I'll definitely check and let you know.
Share this link, sir.
Of course. I think there's a book also, no? I think we're talking about that book on digital mindset.
Yes, Digital Mindset by Paul Leonardi and Sid Alnally. That's a really good one actually as well. So yeah, that's where the 30% rule comes from. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to read that if they get a chance.
No, see, I mean, this digital mindset, should it be created only in the organization when the people join, or can it be sort of, cultivated right from the student days?
Oh, it's these days everyone needs to build digital mindset whichever way they are. So again, you can be working for an organization, or you are going to become a leader eventually. You are studying today and you will eventually become a leader. You need to build these behaviors, right? You need to be able to be continuously learning and upskilling yourself. You should be able to have that emotional intelligence, and you value other people's opinion, and you value other people's ideas. Have that courage to acknowledge that yes, we don't know everything. There are always things, there is always new knowledge out there which I don't know, but I am ready to learn. I am ready to have a growth mindset. I am ready to expand my skill set. So these are applicable across the board, and whether you start off your career or whether you are still in the study phase, or you are a leader in the organization.
Unfortunately, our current system of education, there is specific provision is not there for making this as one of the core strengths, for people.
True. That's why I personally do some trainings as well on this one. I run some trainings as well on leading in the age of AI, or leading in the age of digital transformation, to build that digital mindset at the end of the day, on building enough skill set to be able to continue to lead in this world. Because again, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not part of the curriculum anywhere, but you will not find it probably. But these are the things where I think more collaboration is needed between the academia and the industry professionals. So yeah, that gap needs to be bridged a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. No, thank you for inviting me to talk.
One second, sir. Formal vote of thanks is there. So I'll try.
Sure.
On the outset, I thank the organizing units jointly arranging this webinar today. My heartfelt thanks goes to Mr. Tariq Munir for his excellent presentation on building digital IQ and mindset. In summary, his presentation highlighted the importance of building digital mindset and digital IQ. He defines digital mindset as simply how well the digital inputs could be connected to your business problems. Digital IQ means digital literacy and building the digital mindset. 30% rules for building digital mindset has been listed out as a collaboration first level. Second level is computation. So collaboration with the technologies such as AI and data right now. Computation, solving the problems for automation. Third one is a change management towards building a data-driven culture. He elaborated, continuous learning is about how much I'm willing to challenge my own assumptions against knowledge towards growth, and unlearn one's skills and learn new skills for the digital transformation. He also listed the basic elements of emotional intelligence such as empathy, resilience, or flexibility, human-centric connection with the remote person who collaborates with you. He also stressed that psychological safe environment helps towards experimentation mindset, learning how to fail against ambiguity and uncertainty environments, and be transparent. My heartfelt thanks goes to Mr. Tariq again for clarifying the question raised by the participants offline and online as well. I sincerely thank our mentor, Mr. H.R. Mohan, Chair Events IEEE CS Madras, who successfully arranged this webinar for the benefit of the members. I'm thankful to the participants who joined us in live Google and YouTube live streaming. I thank the event team members of the organizing units for their support in organizing this event. With these warm words, we move on to today's event. Thank you all and good evening.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was an amazing summary, Dr. Komathy. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was trying to capture it. That's it.